The word realistically being like so key there.
Yeah, navigating this can be a little...
It can be tricky.
It can be weird,
Yeah.
and like a little uncomfortable.
For sure.
It might make you lose your mind. Welcome to The Guide Gals, a modern wedding-focused podcast by the experts at Here Comes the Guide. I'm Chelsea, a designer and inspired creative, and the friend who's going to shoot it to you straight.
And I'm Caroline, the social media manager who's obsessed with dogs, has ring bearers, and will inevitably cry over your wedding video. We've seen it from all sides. We've been brides, planners, bridesmaids, and have worked with standout brands throughout the industry.
Think of us as an extension of your wedding party and hang out with us as we share the ins, outs, ups, and downs of the road to I Do. Hey everybody, this is the Guide Gals podcast. We're here for our first episode.
Yes, so exciting.
So exciting. We feel like this has been a long time coming.
Yes.
We are with Here Comes the Guide. I'm a content curator. I have my hands in a lot of creative aspects of the wedding industry, working on editorial, branding, and a lot of design heavy stuff.
Yes, and I am the social media manager at Here Comes the Guide, so I love all things creative as well, which makes us like such a great fit for each other. And also wanted to mention where we are right now.
Yeah, we're in Nashville.
Super fun. This will not be where we are all the time, but like,
Right.
Why wouldn't we come to Nashville to start it off? Because this is like bachelorette party central.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so fun here. I'm always happy when I'm in this city. It just has like a great energy. The people are
Yeah.
so friendly.
And like, this is my first time. So Chelsea's been here a few times. She's been around the block. I have never been, and I'm obsessed with it. Like right off the bat,
Yeah,
I
and
wish.
you're coming back, and
Oh,
we're
yeah,
coming back
yeah.
together. We're both actually from different parts of the country,
Yes.
I guess. So at Here Comes the Guide, it's a fully distributed team. So we're just a group of women working all across
Yeah.
the United States. But I am currently in Illinois.
And I'm in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, different pockets.
Different pockets of the world for sure.
Yeah, but we're so excited to be together
I
for
love
the
being-
first
yes.
episode.
I think it's super fun to be here, and even more specifically, not just being in Nashville, but right now we are in the graduate hotels. Like this
Yes.
backdrop is so fun, you guys. I think it's so cool to be here. It's a very inspired, creative place as well.
Yes, the team at Graduate, they put so much thought into every single
Yeah.
detail, which is right up our alley. Everything is so curated and just thought through, like every
love
single
it.
detail. And we are in Barbie's dream house right now, which is really cool.
Yes.
Yes. So, definitely check out Graduate Hotels if you're looking for a place to stay. It's a perfect place
Right,
for a
'cause
bachelorette
it's not
party.
like it's not just in Nashville. Like that's where we are right now.
Yeah, all
They
across
are
the
all
country.
across the country,
Yeah.
and all of their hotels are super cool. But I think this one specifically has our heart.
Mhm.
I do want to tell you that we have pro tips at the end from a wedding planner at Here Comes the Guide, and they are things that I hadn't thought about. So definitely stick around for those.
And at Here Comes the Guide, there are so many experts and people who have worked in all parts of the wedding industry. So we're definitely going to utilize those strengths that we have. And
Yes.
you can expect some tips, pro tips at the end of every episode.
For sure.
So should we get into it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into our first episode, talking a little bit about obviously some wedding planning, but more specifically how to budget your wedding, because that is a process.
Yeah, and it's a really good place to start. It's like really is a piece that sets the framework for all of the planning ahead, and will like really lay things out so that it's easy to,
It'll be
kind of
easy.
categorize stuff for yourself.
And less stressful, because if you can get this out of the way from the get-go, you are just setting yourself up for a better process.
And that's why we're starting with
And-
this as our first episode.
Exactly.
So,
All right, jumping into step number 1, figuring out who's contributing. It could just be you and your fiance, truthfully, and then you're done with this step. But it is really nice to be able to talk to other people, family, friends, your new in-laws, whoever it may be, and just figuring out who is going to be throwing some money into it. Just getting that laid out and having some conversations around it can be really great. Obviously, not that you're expecting like other people to have to put money into it, but they could be more than willing to. So definitely start this conversation here.
and you might, like Caroline said, not be expecting, but you also might have certain expectations already attached to this. But you never really know without asking and having the conversation. So
Yeah.
this can be awkward in some cases. But I mean, like the worst that can happen is that they say like, sorry, no, I'd love to help, but I can't.
Yeah.
And like you never know. One of your family members might have their heart set on doing a certain thing for your wedding and contributing in a certain
Yes.
way.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of times the groom's parents do the rehearsal dinner. Like I don't know why that's an expectation that's put in place, but I feel like for myself and a lot of my friends, like that was generally what was going on. And so of course, like my husband, his parents offered to do that, and I was very grateful. But beyond that, they also offered to do more decor items, which is super cool. So my mother-in-law, she has four boys. Like I think she really wanted to have a girl, and so she's never really gotten to like jump into wedding
Yeah.
planning like this. So I think she thrived on that, and she made a bunch of macrame things for my wedding, like so many different things, and even just like bought a bunch of other decor things that she was like, hey, if you use this for the wedding, great. If not, you can use that as home decor, like a rug and vases and whatever else it was. But it wasn't necessarily like a straight up monetary contribution, but it was a
Right.
contribution of her time and energy and effort. And it was something she wanted to do, which made it, I think, more special for me and for her.
Yeah, and that's valuable too. And that's why we have this as step one, figuring this out right off the bat,
Yeah.
because figuring out exactly what your budget is going to be and where you can allocate things and what, even time resources that you need to put into certain areas, laying those out right away is going to help you feel really organized throughout the whole process.
Yes, yes.
So once you figure out who is contributing, whether that's a lot of people or just the two of you, it's time to crunch the numbers. In short, you're going to want to come up with an overall number for that big day. So you're going to figure out what you and your partner can realistically put into the pot there. And then, once you have that figured out, you're going to, just add it up with the contribution number above, and then you're going to have your total number for your wedding budget.
Okay, but like truly the word realistically being like
Yeah.
so key there, because like realistically and comfortably, like what do you already have saved up? Are you able to pull from the money that you make every month, or do you have savings you can pull from? Like be very realistic about that.
Are you willing to give up your weekly date night for a little bit?
Yes.
Or are you willing
Or
to
your
change it maybe to McDonald's instead of like a big night out?
right,
These
or
are
like
things to think about.
yes, or like just cutting out a little bit of your Starbucks runs every week and
Right.
putting that money into the wedding budget. So just make sure you are being very realistic about this and very comfortable, because it is, you just don't want to put stress on yourself. And we'll get into that later, but
Yeah, we're going to really break it down further, and we do have resources for you at the end.
But yeah, I just wanted to stress that right here. Just like be realistic about it while you're crunching these numbers. Don't feel like you have to like get to a certain thing. Now that we have figured out the contributions and kind of crunched the numbers to the ballpark, we want to think about guest count now. So step 3 is kind of to estimate your guest count, because this is going to affect so many factors. Things like, can the venue of your dreams actually even accommodate that many
Right.
people? Or how much food and drinks and things do we need to provide? Because those are like the two biggest portions of your budget. That's really going to be a big cost of it. And you really want to think about these numbers, because when you can break it down into a per person cost, it can be super helpful. So at this point, we've crunched the numbers. Let's even take that a step further. Look at your guest count, figure out how many people you want to have come, and then put a number of, it costs $100 per person for my event, because I think that can be super helpful. I didn't realize how expensive
Breaking it
is.
down on a per person amount really can put things into perspective for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to creating this guest count, this can be kind of tricky, figuring out exactly who you want to invite to your wedding. Of course, your big day should be about you and your partner, but when it comes to the guest list, a lot of family members tend to chime in and want to be involved. So
Yeah.
we're planning on making a future episode dedicated just to this, talking
Yes.
about it. But for now, we do have an article that lives on the Here Comes the Guide website
Yes.
that we will have linked in the show notes for you for this episode. So you can check that out in the meantime. Navigating this can be a little...
It can be tricky.
It can be weird
Yeah.
and like a little uncomfortable.
For sure. And hopefully that like if you do end up figuring out that per person cost, it can help not only you wrap your head around that, but if someone else comes to you and is like, let's just add all these people, and you can say, well, it would cost like $1,000 more for that to happen.
Yeah, can I bring a date? Can I
Yeah.
you can say, hey, like it costs this much per person. This is our budget. It's a really, it's a way to put it
It's a
into
helpful tool, I
perspective
think.
for other
Yes,
people as
yes.
well.
Not just for you, but for others too.
Right, right, right. The next step is going to be choosing your non-negotiables. So, non-negotiables are things that you and your partner are going to decide that are the things that have to happen at your wedding. They're really special to you. Maybe it's like something that you've been envisioning for your day, and these might differ between you and your spouse. So you don't necessarily have to have the same ones, but if something is really important to you, you need to make note of those. And this is something too that you might end up spending a little bit more money on. Of course, we have a guide that kind of breaks down the typical like spliced up costs for each of these categories.
And like really, yes, you might be spending more on it, but then once you choose those things that you're going to like prioritize above everything else, budget for those first. Just get that, make sure, because if it is a priority to you, put more money there and you're going to be really happy with being able to do that. Not all weddings are going to look the same. Not every priority that you have is going to be the same as your fiance's or even like your friends or your parents. People might tell you to do differently, but like if you want to have a live band,
Right.
have a live band. Put your budget there immediately.
Yeah, where other people might be fine with making a Spotify playlist and just putting it on the aux cord. But yeah, if you have something that really means a lot to you, set that as make note of it, set it aside, and plan those things first. And
right. If you have deeper pockets, you can pick more than one thing. You can pick a couple of things if you want. But I think definitely like a good framework to start with, pick that one thing that you have in mind, have your fiance pick that one thing in mind, maybe go back and forth, kind of figure out that framework for what is super important to you, and then
yes, and be receptive. Remember that you're marrying your partner and you like them. So say that maybe your partner really has a focus on wanting a late night snack, and they want to have like fast food catered, which I think is so cool.
I actually think that's so cool.
Like I've seen like In-N-Out at weddings and stuff. It's just like really fun.
I love it.
But maybe you don't care about that, and maybe you don't like that. I don't know. You just have to keep your ears open and your heart open to what your partner would want as their non-negotiables.
I think that's a good practice too.
Yeah.
Because that's not gonna be the last time you could have a conversation like that. But yeah, good thing to keep in mind right from the get-go. All right, step number 5 is to do your research, because like everything else in the world, it's a lot, and it comes with unexpected expenses.
Yeah, there are a lot of times hidden costs to stuff that maybe aren't meant to be hidden, like they're not hiding it from you, but just stuff that if you're not immersed in the wedding industry and wedding planning on a daily basis, you might not know that these things exist. So you do have to set aside money for tipping certain vendors, keeping that in mind, which added expense for sure. And venues, even ones with all-inclusive packages, sometimes there are charges that kind of end up being a little bit more a la carte. Like there might be like tear down costs. Like you might have to end up paying like per rental item. Like chairs can be a factor, which I mean, if it's all inclusive, that's usually included, but you never making know. Sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like you just need to educate yourself depending on the venue you're working with, the package that you got. Just make sure that all of those things are figured out, because it's going to help you have a better control of your budget and just like know what you're getting yourself into. And not even just like your venue, your package, just understanding that certain regions are going to have different expenses, different cities. If you're doing something like in Manhattan, it's going to be more expensive than a backyard barbecue, or the time of day. Typically earlier in the day is cheaper, or if you do a weekday wedding versus a weekend wedding,
those are like off season in certain places, you can get kind of like discounted rates.
But even off season in different areas is different.
Yeah, it depends on the weather.
So doing your research on that is going to help you navigate those costs.
Step 6 is going to be doing the math, which isn't as hard as it sounds. To me, math always sounds unpleasant, but you're basically going to look back at these first 5 steps, see the work that you've done, and then you're going to have to do a little bit of a reality check. Does the budget breakdown, do the numbers involved match the vision? Does it match the non-negotiables that you mentioned? Does it
Yes.
match the guest count that you're anticipating having? So you might have to go back and rework a few of these things if it's not
Yeah.
realistic sounding with the amount of money that you're going to be putting in. But once you have that, you're gonna just start to break things down and kind of assign a dollar amount
Yeah.
for each of these categories. We do have a worksheet for you. We're gonna go over that in just a minute here, like
Yes.
in a little bit more detail, but it's a free downloadable, and it's going to help you, give you the framework to do all of that math.
It's so
Super
good.
easy. But yeah, having this all laid out is going to make it very simple for you when you're planning stuff. If, for example, when you're looking at a photographer, you're going to look at certain photographers that fit into your allotted photography budget. So,
Yeah, yep.
yeah.
So one thing I really do want to stress here is do not go into debt just to be able to say I do. And this is something that I don't think is talked about enough, so I do really want to stress it here
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times the pressure to have this perfect wedding that you've always envisioned and I'll do whatever it takes to get there is not healthy. Like you can still
No.
accomplish the wedding of your dreams without doing that.
Right. And we're doing our best to bring information to you that is only going to help you and never hinder you. So, I think that in like the world today, going into debt is extremely easy to do and it's almost normalized.
Yes.
And we don't believe in it in like
No, because
any
like
realm, but
we all
especially
know
not for planning a
no.
wedding.
Right, and
Yeah.
we all know what the number one cause for divorce is, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't start off your marriage like that
Yeah.
in swimming in debt. It's just, yeah, trust us when we say you can still accomplish a champagne wedding on a beer budget.
And that's what we're here to help you with. We have lots of tips for
Yes.
doing that. But there are some, like spending tips that I'm going to throw out at you. I jotted a few down here. So as soon as you get engaged, you can start putting aside some savings. Like we mentioned
Yeah,
a little bit ago, like maybe that means skipping Starbucks and making the coffee at home
right.
at least a couple days a week. Um, but and if you are going to use credit cards, use them responsibly.
Oh, yeah.
It's tempting to rack up, some debt, say like justifying it by saying I can get points for
Oh
this,
my gosh,
which a lot of
yes.
times, I mean, that is valuable.
It is,
But make sure that you're spending the money that you have,
and
or
like
that
paying them
is
off
paying them off.
as you
Yeah,
go, like making sure you have that in there
yeah.
because, I mean, yeah, we paid for our honeymoon off of points, but like never spending more than what we actually
Right.
had. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and another thing that you can do is open up a separate checking account, just for your wedding budget. So as soon as a paycheck comes in, you can start allocating certain percentages. This is something you can do in your everyday life too, whether you're planning a wedding or
That's
not. I
very
know that I
true.
do that
Yeah.
with my bank accounts. I have so many accounts, and just allocate. It's really smart. And then yeah, be on the lookout for deals and discounts too, because I know we mentioned depending on the time of year, there can be discounts and stuff like off seasons, day of the week, but a lot of
Yes.
venues do offer, other deals and discounts. Military first responders, a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
times they will do stuff for that. And on our site, we actually have like a whole section dedicated
To
to
yes.
to this.
And it's like you go to the deals and discount page, you go to the state you want to get married in, and like you can see the venues, the deals and discounts there. So it's not like you're wading through
Right.
all of these, like it is organized.
Yeah, you can really separate it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see like what's available in the area for
Yeah,
you.
truly.
And it never hurts to ask. So if you're touring a wedding venue
Oh my
and you're
gosh,
kind of
yeah.
wondering if they're offering anything, ask.
Ask.
Yeah.
For sure. It doesn't
Yeah.
it never hurts. At the end of the day, it's really important to remember that like no matter how much money you spend, what's really important is that at the end of the day you're getting married and the joy that you feel on the day is going to be like far outweigh the amount of money that you spend. Like you're not going to have a better wedding necessarily because you spend more money. It's really like the thought that you put into these details, the people that are there, the experience, and ultimately like you're marrying your person.
Right.
That's the biggest
Yeah,
thing.
keep the focus where the focus
Yeah.
should be.
No matter what, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and one other thing too, there may be resources available to you, so really rack your brain for that. I know you have an awesome
Oh my gosh.
example
Okay,
with
yes.
your wedding.
Yeah, so my wedding, we we ended up having a short engagement because of this, but it was because we were able to get a reception venue for free, which is
And those are
huge.
huge. That's a huge chunk
It's a
of
huge
your budget
chunk.
is the venue. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
so we were able to free up so much more of our budget for this. So like if we were to fill out this worksheet, when we found that out, like we would have been able to allocate some of what we had set aside for that budget elsewhere. So
Right.
not everybody is going to have that experience. I'm really glad that I was able to.
But you
But
might like rack, like I
yeah.
said, rack your brain. You never know. You do know actually, but like say your sister is a florist,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
might be willing to do some stuff for
Somewhere,
you at a discounted
yeah.
rate. Okay, so now you're going to actually put this all together. And this is where I'm going to talk a little bit more about the free resource that we have. So on our site, it's a free downloadable, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, really simple worksheet, but it just goes ahead and breaks all of this down for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to pop an example of one that's filled out on the screen. It's pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory. All that you're doing is percentages for each of these, and we've based this example on a $30,000 wedding, which was the
Mm-hmm.
average cost of a wedding in 2022, so that's why we popped that number in there. But yeah, and then keep in mind too, all of those little percentages are just the average costs for each of those categories.
Right.
So for example, Caroline had her venue, that was free,
Free,
so you would
yeah.
adjust that 0% for
Just
that
make
one.
sure that all of your percentages add up to 100
Good point.
because you don't want to accidentally overspend because you didn't double check that that number was the even 100. So just
Right.
watch out for that because yeah, would hate that would I hate for that to happen.
And allow for those adjustments too. So you have those non-negotiables. If you've decided that you want to spend a little bit more money here and there in those different
Yeah.
categories, adjust as needed. Like Caroline said, make sure it still adds up to 100. You'll also notice that we put a category in there for an emergency fund and like
Yes.
unexpected expenses.
Yes.
So make sure that you're not counting that out. Leave it there. And, best case scenario, really, you won't have to spend that money and
Exactly,
you'll
yeah.
have a little bit extra to buy yourself,
Whatever. I don't
put it towards your
know.
honeymoon.
Get a new toaster if you didn't get it from your
Get
registry.
a
I don't
really,
know.
really nice toaster.
Now, one thing, I like that you mentioned the extra budget kind of thing. So now that you're mentioning that, I just want to make sure everyone knows we did not include the honeymoon into that budget. We kind of categorize that a little bit separately. And the reason I say this is because we really recommend Honey Fund, which is a place where people who are coming to your wedding, friends, family, can gift experiences or put money towards your honeymoon. We really recommend this because I think it's a really fun thing to give is to give experiences and put money towards that. So then you don't have to include that in your budget for your wedding. It can be totally separate.
It's so fun too. Like whenever I see someone have a honeymoon fund on their registry, I usually will buy them a gift too, and then I'll throw in a
Yes.
little bit of extra cash towards
Yes.
that honeymoon fund. It's just fun. And then when you see the couple on their honeymoon, and you know that you, I don't know, bought them lunch at least, like
Yes.
maybe one of the days, it's
Yeah.
really cool. And like Caroline said, I think she said Honey Fund has those experience things too, so you can gift them
Yes.
an experience.
My bridesmaids actually, they gifted me a bunch of experiences. Now, I'm not going to talk about this now. I was a COVID bride, so things were weird. But they gifted me a lot of experiences that we weren't able to go on. It's fine.
But you would have
But
gone,
we would have gone.
and it would have
And
been
actually,
cool.
one of them I'm kind of glad we didn't go to. My husband loves scary things. And one of the excursions was a haunted lighthouse. So
Yeah, I'm
I'm
good on
counting
that.
my blessings that that one didn't happen. But it was so, like, honestly, the coolest gift was to get this whole, like, all of these excursions that we were going to be able to go on. And it was so unique and so special. And now that is something that I look for to give other people.
Yeah. All right, as promised, we have some pro tips for
Oh,
you.
yeah.
So these are coming to you from Haley at Here Comes the Guide, who is a former wedding planner.
And she was so good at it.
Yeah.
She is so incredibly talented. So it was so important for us to be able to get her insight.
Yeah, she has such a great attention to detail.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's super knowledgeable in this area. So we've pulled some of those, and I'm going to read them out to you. So the first thing that she says is to remember that your time and sanity are major factors in planning too. There are things that you may plan to tackle
Yeah.
yourself in the early stages of planning, but once you get there, it's too much for you to do without pulling out an eyeball.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah. Like, I feel like that has to do with, okay, a fair amount of DIY for your wedding, totally. But That's such a good
DIYing
tip
the whole thing might make you lose your mind.
because you have to put so much time into that. Like,
Yeah.
and your sanity is a factor. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
I personally get myself in over my head, not necessarily with wedding DIYs, but with just life DIYs. It's not
Yeah.
always a good idea, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, planning a wedding is a lot of work. Make sure you're being realistic with the plan that you lay out. The next tip is to make sure that you give some room in your budget for things to come up. So we already talked about this. Having that emergency fund is necessary. Have a little
Oh,
bit of
for
that like
sure.
extra change set aside for this. She also says this event is an ever evolving thing. Things may change as you narrow down on your preferences and guest
Yeah.
counts. So that's true too. I know like sometimes you can even like forget to invite certain family members that you
Oh my
realize
gosh.
later on
Yeah, like,
should be on
oh,
that list. So then you might have to include them and all their kids too. So
yeah, that actually did happen to me.
it's easy to do.
I forgot one of my great aunts. Like one of my grandma has so many sisters, and I forgot one
And
of
it's not for
them.
lack of caring,
Yeah.
Caroline's great aunt.
No, I'm
It's
really
not.
sorry. I am.
It's hard. And when you are planning your own wedding for the most part, if you're not hiring a planner, these things like really
It's
um
hard. Yeah.
it's hard. Haley also says to be smart with your spends. So she says if you're up against a tight budget, don't spend money on the favors. Your guest will never remember. And
That's so
yeah,
true.
she mentions a koozie.
I'm just like, yeah. There are so many that I'm like, that was done really well. If you do your
Yeah.
favors really well, it
Snacks
adds.
are awesome favors.
Oh, I actually do love those.
Yeah.
And one of the other ones I liked, and this isn't for everybody, we got succulents, and some of the
That's
other
a really
guests
cute.
didn't
Let the
want
love
them.
grow. I feel like I always see that on
Yes,
the
I think that was
that's really
exactly what
cute.
it was. And I
Yeah.
took a bunch of succulents because the other people at my table were like, I'm traveling, like I can't take this home. And I was like, I will
Yeah.
take that from
Yeah.
you. And I loved it, but I personally actually didn't plan for favors because we were also like, we'd rather put our budget elsewhere.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Okay, Haley's last tip. Your vendors work so incredibly hard to make your day special. So, people who work in that wedding industry usually love weddings. And if they
Yeah.
don't love weddings, then you probably should avoid hiring them.
Yeah.
But they do. They love weddings and they care about bringing your story to life. That's what it's really all about. Every wedding is unique. So,
I actually really don't think I could be like a full-time wedding vendor. As much as I'm obsessed with weddings. I love them and I
it's hard
love the
work.
creativity of it. It's really hard work and I think I'm too fragile for it personally just because yeah, just because of who I am as a person. So these people who like work so hard to make sure that
In
you get
weird
your dreams.
hours and late
Weird,
hours
yes.
and weekends, like inconveniencing
And like who
themselves.
ultimately are like they have your back. They are
They
the
do.
ones who are fighting for you to get your
Yeah.
dream.
And they know what's best. But the wedding industry gets a bad rap for how much events cost. So
Yeah.
behind every price tag, mentions Haley, are years of expertise, costs of operation, staffing, equipment, supplies, time, more probably.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
the people that you hire to make your day perfect, and they want your event to go off without a hitch too. So there's so much time and heart that goes into each and every event. And I know when Haley was writing this out, she's thinking probably about like her connections that she made while she was doing this full
Yeah.
time. But yeah, she says be respectful and appreciative of all the vendors that you hire. So this is stressful. Like planning a wedding is stressful. Your wedding day is stressful.
Yes.
The closer you get, the more stress you have. So don't take it out on them. They care. They
They
really
do.
do.
They do.
And like I said, or like Haley said, sorry, like the wedding industry does get a bad rap because stuff is really expensive.
It's so expensive.
It
but
is. But yeah, there's
there's
a reason.
There's a
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, there's a reason for it. So I hope that there was something in today's episode that will make the whole planning process easier for you. We think that budgeting your wedding is the perfect place to start.
Yeah, and honestly, if you can't tell already, we're really excited to walk alongside you in this process.
We are.
It's been a project that's a long time coming because we are really passionate about making this a stress-free as possible
Yeah.
event for you.
Yeah, and it is a stressful thing. And, us being so immersed in this industry, we get to work alongside just like the best women at Here
Yeah.
Comes the Guide, who a lot of them have so much experience in the
Yes.
wedding industry in all these different areas before coming to Here Comes the Guide. And yeah, we're so immersed in weddings every single day that a lot of this stuff,
Yeah, it felt wrong to hide this information. Not that we would
yeah,
hide it,
no,
but
we're
like
not hiding
we
it at
want
all,
to give it.
but
No, we are not. That's actually true. If you poke around our site, you'll find a lot
there's
of
so
things.
much.
But no, like we want to we want to hang out with you guys while you plan. It's
Right.
important.
And yeah, bring these topics to you in a super digestible way,
Yeah.
that hopefully breaks them down. Yeah, so that it feels a little bit more like second nature to you too, like
Right,
it does to
right.
us at this point.
And as part of that, trying to be as helpful and organized as possible, you will find all of our show notes, different resources
Yes.
on our site. Again, shameless plug, poke around on Here Comes the Guide. You
Yeah.
won't regret it. It's super helpful. We have all of those resources out there for you.
Yes. We're so happy, like we said, that we got to dive into this with you today. And yeah, there's more to come, more episodes
gosh,
on so
yes.
many different subjects. So stay tuned for that.
Comment, follow us, because those are ways that we will get a
Yes.
better indication of what you want to see from us.
Yeah, and if you have questions about anything, feel free to shoot us an email at hello@theguidegalspodcast.com or leave a comment down below.
Yep.
We will check those.
And we'll be there to chat with you about whatever you want to know.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's it.
I think that's
so
it.
Until next
Oh,
time.
guys, have a great day. See you next
Yeah.
time.
Cheers.
Cheers! The taste of the first episode being done.
Tastes good.
It tastes good.